guys, and welcome back to Young Chef's Diary. If you are new here, I want to wish you a pleasant stay. I hope you subscribe to this channel and become a part of this small but beautiful community. You might be thinking that being a chef is great. You stand in the kitchen all day, cook delicious food, life can't get any better. But I promise it's not all cream and peaches. Even if you do cook and eat a lot of delicious food, being a chef is a lot harder than you think. And I will tell you why in this video for the Young Chef's Diary.
Take you up in boom boom boom, boom boom. Tell me I'm the only one that you love. Life could be a dream, sweetheart.
Everything I'm about to tell you comes from my personal experience and from my colleagues I worked with. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 1 is working hours. Our regular day is around 12 to 14 hours. Sometimes we have to work 16 to 18-hour shifts. We rarely get any breaks during work. This is probably why most of the chefs smoke, to have at least a minute-long break. Weekends and holidays? Yeah, forget about those. While everyone is resting, that's when we work the most. That is also why our social life is so messed up. It's actually very difficult to have relationships. We hardly have time to do our own stuff on the days off, and it's actually very sad that we don't have enough time to spend with our families. I'm not sure how, but I hope that this changes sometime soon. Number 2, you have to show up to work even if you're sick. In the kitchen, everything has to be very precise. Every single person has specific tasks they have to do throughout the day. Usually one of them is running one of the kitchen stations. So if one of the people don't show up, then everything kind of crumbles. Every person matters, and unless you're very sick, you have to show up to work. Otherwise, the rest of the kitchen team is going to have a very hard day covering your station and preparation. There were only 2 times when I didn't show up to work, and both of those times I was hospitalized. One time, I lost my consciousness, and as I fell, I had a very sharp edge and opened my face up. I had 23 stitches and still went to work the next day. Probably no one else but kitchen staff will understand why you must show up to work even if you're sick. Number 3, it is exhausting, both mentally and physically. Imagine working 12 to 16 hours a day on your feet, carrying hot and heavy pots and pans. And not just pots and pans, the whole environment is very hot. It feels like you're working in the tanning room, but you never get tanned. To be honest, you look more like a cottage cheese. There's so many things happening at the same time in the kitchen. You always have to be focused and see all the small things. We don't like when things do not turn out the way we want them to be. Because of all the stress and responsibilities, sometimes we become very frustrated and short-tempered. We shout at each other and tell our colleagues to go F themselves. But at the end of the day, we all get along just fine. We all understand why this happens. When all of the stress builds up in your head, you start hearing the ticket machine in your sleep. When I started working in the kitchen, I would wake up in the middle of the night hearing the ticket machine and thinking if I have everything I need to plate these dishes, until I would realize that I was sitting on my bed all along. Number 4, it does hurt. A lot. Most of the things in the kitchen are either hot, cold, heavy, or sharp. All of these things can hurt you a lot, and of course it does happen a lot in the kitchen. Cuts and burns are the most common injuries. But let's be honest, your feet and back hurt too after 14-hour shifts. But don't worry, you stop feeling the burns after some time. Number 5, you are constantly judged. Every dish you make is always judged by the customers who eat your food. There are always people who have no clue what the good food is, but leaving all kinds of reviews on TripAdvisor and other websites. It's hard to be judged by the people who have less knowledge about the food than you do. Anyways, if that's not enough, your coworkers are probably judging you too. Number 6, your friends and family are scared to cook something for you. And not just that, Most of them expect you to say something about the meal after you eat it. Me personally, I do not judge any person's food or ability to cook. I never comment on food unless it is necessary for some reason. In the kitchen, when we're developing new dishes, we criticize each other so we can make the best dish we can. It's constructive criticism. If I go to a restaurant and I do not like the food there, I won't go back to that place and that's it. But I'm not going to complain about the food unless it's completely unedible. Developing cooking skills takes a lot of time and effort. And judging someone who's simply cooking at home from time to time would be like Usain Bolt telling me I do not know how to run properly and I'm too slow. You can't usually compare someone who's doing it professionally and someone who's doing it as a hobby. Number 7. Cooking is just the beginning. When you're a chef, you don't just have to be a great cook. You also have to be a fishmonger, a butcher. You have to know your inventory and your prep inside out. Also, you never know when the health department will show up, so you have to make sure that everything is in the right order, all the staff has the gear they need, all the coolers are at the right temperatures, everything is covered and labeled, so you have to be very organized and you also need to know how to work with different types of people. It's a lot harder than you think. Number 8. Your parents and family won't understand. They won't understand why you can't call in sick. They won't understand why you work 12 to 16-hour shifts. They won't understand why you like the stress and pressure. They also won't understand how can you hold this very hot tray or a plate with your bare hands. They won't understand why would anyone work in these kinds of conditions. But we do. And it takes us to the final, number 9. You just can't help but love it. Every day of this work you learn something new. New products, new techniques, new recipes. Every day you learn something new about one thing that brings joy to everyone. Food. We get to eat the best food in the world and we get to share it with other people too. We cook to nurture people, we cook to bring people joy. And to finish things off, I would like to quote Daniel Boulud. Although I will never deny that it's hard to work to become a chef. The clutter of the kitchen, the intense aromas, the mix of languages, the precision teamwork of the kitchen brigade when the service is really rocking. All of these things make you feel alive and charged in a way that nothing else can. So yes, you work until you're bone tired, but there is nothing else you would rather do. And that's it guys, these are the 9 reasons why being a chef is a lot harder than you thought. If you like this video then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to share it with your friends. Also don't forget to subscribe to Young Chef's Diary channel to never miss out on the new videos. Do you agree with this list? Do you know any other reasons why being a chef is hard? Leave a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching guys and I'll see you next time with another new video. Culinary Fact. Kazumazu is a cheese found in Sardinia that is purposely infested with maggots.